Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer. Say, why did Germany lose World War II? Because 3 Reichs and you're out. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at the solo and cooperative expansion to Company of Heroes from Bad Crow Games. In this expansion to Company of Heroes, players can now play the game as a solitaire experience or as a cooperative experience. Now, I have just played it as solitaire, so I'm going to go ahead, explain a little bit about the rules, and tell you my thoughts. Players go ahead, select a faction they want to play, set it up normally, and then the AI actually functions in this game in some very interesting ways. Now, first of all, the AI does not gain resources in the way that players do. It does not gain victory points in the way players do. Essentially, it works to prevent the players from achieving their victory points in the game. Now, at the very beginning of the game, the player is going to choose an AI opponent, a commander card. Now, there are kind of weaker commander cards and there are more difficult commander cards, and depending on the difficulty you choose, that's going to set the tone for the experience you're going to have. Now, the player is going to interact with the AI similar to the way it reacts with other players, in that, it can go ahead, use 3 cubes, the other player can move 3 cubes, etc., etc. The AI can move 3 cubes here. And then you do that all the way up until all your cubes are spent. Now, the commander card is going to tell how many cubes total that the AI is going to have for a round. So after the player moves as normal, you're going to go to the AI action cards. Now, when you draw one of these AI action cards, it gives you colors and symbols. It tells you which color is activating. You remember the infantry is green, your lighter vehicles are yellow, the heavier vehicles are red, etc., etc. And it's going to say which color is going to activate, essentially. But then it's also going to say what kind of action they take with a symbol on that card. You are then going to refer to the instruction card. You have several instruction cards for that specific action. Now, you resolve the actions from left to right, from top to bottom. So you're going to look at the first one. You're going to try to do everything he can. If you have cubes left over, you can do it with the second and the third, etc., etc. Or if you can't do one, you just go to the next one. But essentially what you do is you grab the appropriate instruction card and it tells you exactly which unit will activate. And it'll do this in different ways. It'll say maybe this unit closest to a victory objective, or this unit closest to a building. It'll specify. It's got an order there. It said if not this one, then this one. And then finally it will say in reading order. And what reading order means is if you're looking at the board, it's as though literally you're reading. You go top and from left to right, from top to bottom, left to right. So the first one you come across in reading order, that's the one you're going to activate if the other activations don't work. So you're going to go ahead and activate that unit. And then also it's going to say what that unit does. Is it taking up a defensive posture? Does it want to occupy a building? Does that unit want to advance on a victory objective or another control point? What does it want to do? So it's going to give you a lot of different options for how that is going to work. Now, I should point out, too, you are not dealing with miniatures for your opponent in this game. Rather, you have a series of cardboard tiles that you're going to bring out, and they come out face down. So you will know the color of that tile, but you will not necessarily know what is on the other side, what that unit actually is. So those tiles will come out, and then when they get to a line of sight with one of your units, you will flip that tile over. Now that can have some consequences. There may be some things that trigger. For instance, some of the units, when you flip them over, they will pin the unit that saw them. In a lot of cases, when you flip that over, it will not be a unit at all, but rather it will be an event. And if you look at the back of the rulebook there, it says specifically what these events do, and there's all sorts of different things that may cause havoc for your forces. Now these enemy units, they attack and defend just like regular units do in the game. They assign damage, and then they're going to kind of roll, they're going to take damage, and then you're going to kind of roll to see if they can block any of it, depending on certain factors, depending on the terrain they're in or any other factors that may be there. But essentially combat more or less works in the same way. The AI does kind of have a target priority selection, so you will consult a card to see exactly what units the AI is going to target during combat. Now, if you succeed in destroying an enemy unit, you do not gain a victory point. Rather, you just gain the experience for it. You gain the experience that then you can spend to upgrade your forces, but you, as I say, you don't get a victory point. You only gain victory points by controlling the objectives. Now, the enemy forces are going to be moving towards those objectives frequently, so they're trying to deny you being able to hold them. And that's kind of how the game works, is every round on your commander card, you're bringing out new units, new enemy units. If it gets to the end of the commander card and you have not gotten, I believe, 10 objective points, then you lose the game. So you're going back and forth, you are moving your forces to try to capture those objective points. The enemy AI, according to those cards, is moving forward, they're hunkering down, but they're constantly battling you, constantly trying to deny you those victory point objectives. But if you can succeed in gaining all of the victory point objectives you need, then you win! Company of Heroes, solo and cooperative expansion. So, if you saw my review for the base game a few months ago for Company of Heroes, you know I was kind of not expecting a lot because the game looked so good. It looked good, and when a game looks really good, I'm very suspicious that it will play good. But I fell in love with it. I had so much fun with Company of Heroes. It was such a fun experience. Little bit of a learning curve, learning some of the iconography and stuff, but generally it's an easy game to play once you understand it, and it packs a punch. It's super fun. It's a relatively light war game, but it's very engaging, and it is, as I say, it's tremendous fun. Really, really enjoyed the base game here. So I was interested, particularly after I moved here to Rock Springs and I don't have as many people to play with, I was interested very much in the cooperative game, and the good people at Bad Crow said they'd send out the cooperative game. So they sent out the cooperative game to me, and I got to tell you, when I first opened it up and looked at the rules and looked at the components, and I saw the enemy doesn't use minis, but rather they use the cardboard, my heart sank. I'm like, well, I'm kind of used to using the minis in this game. And I'm not a big guy that needs minis for a game, but I just figured with this game, it kind of needed it because, it's just ingrained in my head now. That's how you play the game. So I was really disappointed initially when I saw that your enemy is not minis, but is just these cardboard tokens. And then I set it up and I started playing it, and it quickly became apparent to me this is a good thing that it's not minis, and it's a good thing for a couple of reasons. I really think in a solo game it would kind of be tedious managing the minis. So in that sense, I'm kind of glad it's not minis. But more than that, what I really like about these cardboard tiles is there's a fog of war element, and you don't really get that with a 2-player or 4-player game. I played this 4-player and 2-player, and you can kind of see all the stuff on the map. And here with this, you know something's there, you know roughly what it could be, but until you actually get in line of sight, you don't know what it is. You don't know if it is an enemy or if it is an event. You don't know what kind of an enemy. You don't know how strong it is. So I really like the fog of war element that adds to the game. I wasn't expecting that. I didn't even really think that would be that big a deal, but I actually did because it's scary, and it means you got to do your best and try to plan and prepare for it as best you can, but you just never know. So I ended up actually really liking the cardboard opponent in this game. Now, The rulebook itself is good. I kind of screwed up because I thought you were supposed to draw the. I didn't understand the relationship between the action cards and the instruction cards. I thought you draw one and then draw the other. And I'm trying to put my head around this. I'm like, what is going on here? And then I actually read that section of the rulebook, and it's like, duh. And it was very easy. And that is very cool because what it means is as you're playing the game, you don't know exactly what's going to happen. You don't know where these units are going to move. You don't know how they're going to move. And yet it doesn't feel chaotic. It feels like it thematically makes sense. They're taking defensive positions or they're rushing for the objectives. So you never know quite what's going to happen, but it works. It doesn't just feel like it's completely random. It feels like there's kind of an intelligence there working against you. So that is, again, that's a big plus. I really enjoyed that about it as well. One thing I was a little unclear on, and I read through several times trying to find this, it constantly references the AI base, and I'm assuming the AI base is just the spawn zone, but it doesn't specifically say that. It doesn't spell that out. And I like my rule books like I like my R-rated movies, explicit. I need to know exactly when you talk about a concept or an idea in a rule book. I need to know exactly what that is and exactly what its relationship to everything else is. And I didn't, and maybe I'm missing it. But they talk about the concept of bases, but I didn't see exactly what the base was. So I was just saying, okay, it's this area of the spawn zone here, which I think is what it is. But again, I'm not. It doesn't state it clearly. So that was one of my big. Well, that was probably my biggest issue with this expansion. But generally, I had a ball with it. Had a ton of fun with it. This is one I will be playing solo again. Because it was really, really an enjoyable experience. And, like I say, I've played this 4-player, which I liked, and I played it solo, which I liked. I think so far my favorite player count for this game is 2-player. I really like it as a 2-player game. Zach and I played it 2-player once or twice, and we just both really got a kick out of this game. But if I don't have another player, this solo mode is really fun, and I will be playing it again. Really had fun with it. Now, also too, the good people of Bad Crow also sent me the Terrain Pack 1. You can see the buildings there in the photos. It came with the buildings. It came with the flags and the stands for the flags, and it also came with some of the barricades and sandbags and barbed wires and those sorts of things. It also came with, so all that stuff is really cool. The buildings actually, part of them slides out, so you can actually have a unit in the building and on the building. And there's also, of course, a little spot for die, so you can put die to mark any building damage that happens over the course of the game as well. So that was pretty cool. I got to tell you again, my feeling is my thinking was I didn't need that stuff in the game. I didn't need the terrain. And yet when I play with it, I can't imagine playing without it because it just looks so good. It gives a three-dimensional feeling to the game. I kind of get down low and look, and you can kind of see from the perspective of your soldiers what they're facing, and I just I'm gonna kind of go on a bigger idea here. So stick with me, okay? On Amazon.com, whenever you go to look at their board games, it says toys and games. And that always kind of frustrates me because it's always kind of, games are kind of lumped in with stuff for kids, right? And increasingly the games we play today are not kids games, or at least they're certainly not exclusively kids games. And that always kind of bothered me, toys and games. And yet at the same time, it seems that a lot of games today, literally that's what they are, is toy boxes. I remember we were playing like Star Wars Armada or Rebellion, something with Zach one time, and he said, when we were kids, when we were 10 years old, we were playing with Star Wars action figures. And you know what? We're in our 40s now. We're still playing with Star Wars action figures. And that's true, There's a toy factor, and I think that goes a long way to explaining why games with minis do so well, is people, they don't just want a board game, they want a toy box. And my feeling is the toy box is fun. And I like it. But the game's the thing. The game is always the thing. And that's one of the reasons why I like Company of Heroes so much, is because Not only does it have that toy box factor, which so many games do, and they're not great games, but this is a great game. I really have fun with this game. And the toy box is just kind of the icing on the cake, as far as I'm concerned. And with the terrain pack here, I feel like it's some really, really good icing. It really is. It just makes the game a little more fun, and you feel like a kid. When I was real little, like 5 years old, I started collecting GI Joe, and for like 10 years, until I was about 14 or 15, that was my world. I collected GI Joe, and you play a game like this, and I feel like I'm playing with GI Joes again. Anyway, enough waxing nostalgic. Really like this expansion. Super fun. If you have the Company of Heroes board game, you will definitely want to pick up this expansion. If you don't have Company of Heroes yet, you'll want to get it. It's just amazing. I haven't played this co-op yet. I don't know that I will. Maybe I'll try it at some point if I can find someone. But to me, I'd rather play, I think, as an opponent if I'm playing two-player. Solo, I really like it. If you like solo games, you like Company of Heroes, buy this expansion. Thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd also ask you to please give us a thumb on Board Game Geek to this video, and indeed all of our videos. That really helps us out a lot. And I'd ask you to check out my other channel and subscribe to my other channel. That is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about military history and books on military history, and have a lot of fun there as well. Ladies and gentlemen, my grandfather once told me a joke about his experiences in World War II. He said a German soldier, an Italian soldier, and a Japanese soldier all walked into a bar. A Browning automatic rifle. Please somebody help me on my feet again.